So I felt fairly healthy. There was no sign of worry, but I had moments where I would feel dizzy or moments where I would have some shortness of breath. But then it all escalated when around 2012 when I had sharp pain in the middle of my chest.
And he says to me, I really think I need to go to the emergency room, to the hospital. So of course I'm like, this guy. I'm like, you have a flu. Like, we don't need to go to the hospital. But we went, and it took a lot longer than expected. And come to find out, it took a while because they were doing chest x-rays and they found that his heart was bigger than usual, bigger than normal.
My name is Bouba Dieme. I'm from Mali and Senegal. I'm an engineer and an entrepreneur. I worked as an engineer in energy and telecommunication for a few years before launching my own energy business in Senegal.
So my name is Desiree Allen. I'm a consultant. I work for a strategic advisory firm called Dalberg. It was while working with them in South Africa that I met Bouba. So we dated for a while, and then shortly after we moved in together is when he was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy. Moved to Dakar after our baby was born. So Barack was born in July 2014. Bouba had already moved to Senegal to start a job there and to kind of pave the way for us to come. And the first year in Senegal was, health-wise, was fine. Beginning of last year is when a lot of that changed. He started coughing again, and I remember sitting on the couch and thinking, the last time I heard him coughing like this was in South Africa, right before he got diagnosed. You're in between wanting to be optimistic and say, okay, this is going to resolve itself. We just have to keep moving, keep living, and really just being scared. Like, I just wanted us to pick up and come to the US, right?
How does this idea of dialogue and negotiation apply in a country where you've got this very violent conflict with an extremist group? With whom will you seek to speak with, to create these voices of dialogue and negotiation?
It has to be a long-term commitment. We have to really seek to go into the real root of the problem. And then when I traveled in June to California, 2 days after my arrival, symptoms got back. So I had this operation on the 11th of January this year, 2017. So it's almost gonna be 3 months. And then I spent about a month at the hospital, including 1 week in the ICU. Controller and all of this come off.
2001, there was a seminal clinical trial. It was called the Rematch trial that explored the use of an artificial heart pump called a left ventricular assist device that was then able to afford a survival benefit to patients who may not have been able to get a heart transplant.
We're going to this one. Always do the white first, because the white cable has the information.
What this device is really a left ventricular bypass machine. So the surgeons will put a special cannula, a tube, into the left side of the heart, and this pump, literally like a vacuum, will draw blood from the left side and basically return it to the aorta, which is the largest blood vessel in the body. And so by virtue of doing so, it's able to generate blood flow that is more or less independent of the left side of the heart, and that patient then benefits from having not only improved blood flow, but improved survival, even though they may not get a heart transplant.
The hardest part for me was, it wasn't even so much that it was hard, it was just amazing to me, but was just how many IVs they had hooked up. I mean, it was like an orchestra. It was, both sides of the bed were just like tubes and like all of this. And I was just like, my God. But that was fine. I think the hardest part for me was the day that They essentially had to stop Bouba's heart. They did it twice because he was having, I think they call it AFib, but his heart was misfiring essentially, so they wanted to restart it. They called me and said, we think you should come in. So I, of course, rushed right over. And I'd never seen Bouba angry in all the years that we've dated. Like, I'd never seen him like angry like that. He was just so upset because he just felt as though it was a setback, He was doing so well, and then all of a sudden he wasn't doing well anymore. And then I also think he felt as though he understood what was happening with his body, and it was kind of like almost an invasion of that. So I think that was the worst day. But after that, it was pretty smooth sailing.
3 months since operation, I really feel very good, and I'm ready to get back to normal life, the new normal life. And I use the shower bag, which is this bag here. My son is about almost 3 years old, so he's 2 and 9 months. We're able to run around a little bit more. We're able to play, throw the ball, play, go shoot basketball, almost any sport except for contact sport and swimming. So I'm still able to be active with him, and I think after the heart transplant, I'll be able to get back to that full contact sport if we have to. But so far, it's young, so we're able to do a lot of the fun stuff with him. He understands that, Daddy is not well, so he kind of also enjoy looking after me, explaining to people that Daddy has a pump, Daddy has batteries. So this is waterproof, and at the same time I can still see all the alarms in the batteries. And I use this under the shower. I was put on the waiting list since October, so that meant that at any moment there could be a match, and then I could be called for the procedure.
The challenge is that there are about 7 million people with various degrees of heart failure in terms of its severity. But over the last 10 to 20 years, the number of transplants in this country have only been about 2,300, and that's been a stable number. There is a gap, if you will, in the number of patients who need a new heart or some type of heart replacement therapy, and those who are eligible and are able to get a new heart.
I only have this one to deal with. In my case, it gets trickier because I'm 6'7" and 6'7", so that's not very common to have, and then with my weight, about 230 pounds, so finding somebody in the same frame is not common. Let's finish this time. I think it should be about 2. My timing hasn't been perfect. Let's finish. Did you eat? Did you finish eating? Go eat. So there's a lot of frustration. I think just being not able to do what you want to do, being able not to go where you want to go, the freedom of it, it's difficult. Place this in. You realize that the wall is not necessarily built for people with, I would say, disabilities or with restrictions. So that's a frustration to deal with, but it's an adjustment that we go through, and I think it makes you stronger and makes you tougher as you deal with it. In case any of these batteries are faulty or running low?
It's really hard because Bouba and I are both really committed to living in Africa, living in West Africa, but above that, contributing to development there. It's really hard that when you're being impacted personally by the lack of infrastructure and technology, there's a piece of you that says, okay, I just want to take advantage of my privilege and go back to the place that has everything we know we need.
I'm definitely going to think about that, and definitely already talking to the doctors in how we can bring more technology in Africa, as this one, which is probably the high end of the technology spectrum. This is a journey that I'm happy to, I'm passionate about already, even before being sick. I grew up in a family of doctors, so going forward, that's one of the challenges we hope to contribute to. Kick it with your foot. Kick it with your foot. Let's play football.
Wow, what's that?
We've always been thinking about how do we use this experience to make a difference back home, back in Senegal. And there's a part of you that thinks it's about the technology, But I think what we really realize is that it's not that so much that's the big difference. It's the culture and the team atmosphere around the patient that makes a difference, you know? So while the doctors played a big role, obviously, they're the ones who did the surgery and all of that, we hardly saw them as much as the nurses. Like, the nurses were the ones who made all of the difference. They were the ones who advocated for Bouba. They knew what was happening with him on a day-to-day basis. The doctors relied on them to really understand what was happening. And we realized that would make a huge difference, is just having trained professional support staff who could support the doctors and support the patient.
This is a life journey, so this is going to be something to deal with for the rest of my life, even after the heart transplant. You know, you got to take medication every day. You have to be really cautious. It's an adjustment that is necessary, but it's you know, it's about your life. So it's been rewarding at the same time to have that relationship with people, with family and friends.